So I'm convinced there are people that just aren't going to cruise anymore. I'm in a super unique position because as I make these daily cruise news shows, I get all kinds of comments, which I really enjoy, but the comments run the spectrum. I get the good comments, I get the bad comments, I get the rational comments, I get the irrational comments, I get the positives, I get the negatives, and through it all, taking all that in, processing that data, I get a sense of people who are still pro cruising and people that I just don't think they're going to cruise anymore. In today's episode of the Lido Loca cruise show, let me give you a list of people I just don't think they're going to do it. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Lido Loca cruise show. I'm your host, Tony. If you enjoy that cruising and travel content, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. Well, the cruise news is popping off. There's exciting things going on in Europe, but we're going to save it until tomorrow. Today, we're just going to talk about people who may not cruise again. And I really want to make this as interactive as possible, so I'm going to give you my list, and let's do it like we always do it. Let's jump down into the comments and talk about it. So the first group of people that I think won't be cruising right away are people that have health concerns primarily related to the current crisis. There are people with autoimmune issues. There are people with underlying health conditions that have said very plainly, because I have these health conditions, because I'm uncertain as to how treatment would happen if I got the virus, I'm not ready to get on a cruise ship. I'm not ready to give it a shot. I think that's a very valid concern, and I do think that people that have those concerns will probably wait to cruise until it's proven out that it's super safe to go back on a cruise ship, that there are treatments in place if something goes wrong, that there are good processes in place. And what I can tell about people in this category is there is a self-awareness about their own limitations, a self-awareness about their health, and you can tell there's a seriousness that goes along with it. And so anytime that I see a comment from somebody saying, look, I'm immunocompromised, I don't want to go cruising right now, I completely understand where they're coming from, and I do believe that that's one of the people that won't be running right back onto the cruise ship. Another group of people that I don't think will jump right back on a cruise ship are people that still have concerns that they'll be quarantined on the cruise ship. For many of us in the United States, you have just a limited amount of vacation time. It's hard to bake like a 7-day quarantine, much less a 14-day quarantine into your vacation process. All of a sudden, you almost need a month off if there is some sort of risk that you'll be quarantined on a cruise ship or that you'll be quarantined in a port city just for the fact of going cruising. A lot of places that you travel to right now, they're requiring a small quarantine once you get there. Certain countries, you have to take a test or you have to quarantine for a period of time, and there's a lot of people that saying, look, I just don't have the flexibility to do that. I can't take a vacation that's going to require some sort of quarantine to go along with it. And so those are people that may not cruise right away. Closely related to those people are people that have concerns about their jobs. Many employers now asking questions like, where are you going on vacation? Are you going on a cruise? Are you leaving the country? There's some debate whether you should offer up that information. What happens if you say, it's none of your business what I'm going to do on my vacation, but then your boss or coworker sees you on a cruise ship? Is that going to be a problem? This could be very litigious, I think, in the future when it comes to how intrusive employers can be when it comes to what you're doing with your personal time. But if they put a rule out there that says, look, if you're going on a cruise ship, you can't return to work, you have to take extra vacation or sick time. If people are in that situation, I think it's going to make some folks think twice about jumping on a cruise ship. Another group of people that have kind of shown themselves to maybe be people that aren't going to cruise again right away are port explorers. These are people that love cruising because their cruise vacation includes going to foreign lands, going to foreign ports, going out there and exploring. And the port explorers may have a hard time in the beginning. It may be a challenge. There could be cruises that have very few or minimal port stops. They could have port stops that are just going to the cruise line's private island. And then on top of that, if your cruise does have a port stop, you may be limited to only taking the excursions offered by the cruise line, only an excursion where they can watch you, they can make sure you don't go to certain places, where they can keep you isolated from the local population. That's starting to happen even with cruising in Europe right now, where, yeah, they're going to stop at some ports, but the only thing that you can do is the ship offered excursion. And for people that like to run free with the wind in their hair and explore the places that they're going, this could be a drawback, and I think that this is going to keep some of those port explorer types of people off cruises in the short term. So this next one, you wouldn't think that it would be true, but I've seen a few comments. There are people out there that don't want to cruise again in the absence of a self-service buffet. A lot of people have cheered that the self-service buffet is going away, but there are people out there that say, look, part of the reason I cruise is the convenience of the buffet. I don't want to wait to be served. I don't want to wait in line. I don't want to do so many things. The buffet hits me just right. I can show up, get the food that I want. That's the cruise experience I like. And for some, in the absence of a buffet, it may change cruising in a way where they just don't want to do it. Another group of people that may not cruise in the future, may be people that aren't cruising anyways. I'm going to call these the cruise naysayers. These are people who are champions of the issues that we've been told make cruise lines bad. I'm not cruising because cruise lines are bad for the environment. I'm not cruising because cruise lines don't treat their workers well. I'm not cruising because cruising is a floating petri dish. I'm not cruising because it's anti-American to go cruising. They're not even American companies. All the people that carry those narratives, those lofty narratives about the righteousness of cruising or not cruising. I don't know if they were cruisers anyways, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to be cruisers going forward. They're just going to continue to stand in the public square of the internet and offer us lofty platitudes that somebody's got to read so they can get to the next comment. Could you be brief with your narrative, please? And then the last group of people that aren't going to cruise, I feel like these are cruisers who cruised in the past, but they're not going to cruise going forward. These are the anti-people. They're the anti-change people. They're the people that say, I'm not going to cruise if I have to wear a mask. I'm not going to cruise if I have to social distance. I'm not going to cruise if I have to take a test before I go on a cruise. I'm not going to cruise if I have to take a vaccine. I'm just going to lump them all together. They're the antis, the anti-anything other than what used to be, even though the world has changed. If I have to do anything different than what I used to do, I'm not going to do it, and therefore I am not going to cruise. I've seen a lot of that in the comments. I've run some polls, and all the polls that have questions that are anti-type questions, it usually fleshes out to be 15-20% of the people that are falling into that camp. So it could be a situation where 20% of the people that used to cruise, they don't cruise any longer. And that may work out okay, because I know in the beginning cruise lines are trying to cruise with less people and still have that high demand for cruising. So maybe if the 20% of the antis drop off, cruising still remains strong. I don't know. The 20% may make a difference to the cruise line, and they may change some of these rules to accommodate the anti-people, but I don't think they will in the beginning. And it really does depend if the anti-people are really serious when they say they're not going to cruise. Like, you know, every Hollywood actor says, I'm going to move to Canada if so-and-so gets elected, but then they don't move to Canada. I don't know if the anti-people are really going to be like, I'm not going to cruise if X, but then X happens and they still cruise anyways. Only time will tell. I mean, honestly, for me, I hope everybody is able to go cruising and have a good time. But what scares me is, as when cruising resumes, I really hope that cruise life can be somewhat insulated from real life. It's an idealistic hope of mine. The world that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 months, at least in my country, has been more divisive than almost any other time that I've been alive. I've never really experienced such a time where people with different attitudes couldn't have a dialogue that was civil, that didn't devolve into some sort of shaming or name calling. And it frightens me. I worry that once we get back on the cruise ship, it could be more of the same. People would go anyways if they don't like the new policies, they don't like the new rules. They would just feel entitled to go even though they weren't going to follow the rules. And then you got the people that are following the rules that'll argue with the people that aren't following the rules, and it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. I do feel like we're only about 6 months from it playing out. And look, a lot can change in 6 months. We know that just from the last 6 months. So this could be a completely different conversation when cruising resumes in earnest. But right now, if cruising started today, I think it would be a little bit contentious. I think there would be some people that didn't cruise. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Let's continue the conversation. Thanks for stopping by the show today. Please show your support by hitting the like button. And this is Tony with the Lido Loca Cruise Show. And until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido.